Tonight at the College World Series, Tennessee takes on LSU, and before the opening pitch, first responders will be recognized on the field.
As part of a First Responders Night, one of Omaha's own will be performing the National Anthem alongside the Omaha Fire and Police Honor Guard. Our Marlo Lundak joins us live in the newsroom with more.
John, Jacqueline, there are two things that the majority of people cannot do. That's fight fires and sing in front of crowds. But one of the Omaha Fire Department captains manages to do both. Danny Landholm has been with the Omaha Fire Department for more than 10 years. But her passion for music has deep roots, and she's a performer at heart. She began singing the national anthem for local county fairs and eventually moved up to local police and fire fundraisers like Guns and Hoses. Tonight, she'll be singing the national anthem in front of her biggest crowd yet, the College World Series. I spoke with her earlier today about what the national anthem means to her.
Through the song, it talks about the rocket's red glare and that light that's shining through the darkness that's showing us our flag is there, and it's giving that promise of freedom. Regardless of the turmoil and the battle that's happening, we still have that promise of freedom and the symbolism that stands behind that. And to get to share that tonight is really an honor.
Now, Landholm says the opportunity isn't just special because she's an Omaha area native, but as a member of the fire department, being able to sing the national anthem on a day dedicated to first responders will make it a night that she will never forget. I'll have much more on this coming up tonight at 5. Back to you guys.